This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
There are some really tough jobs out there, some really hard ways to make a living. You think of the guys in the dead of summer who have to pave the roads in Arizona, the guys who have to pick up those porta potties at the Daytona 500 or at Mardi Gras, deep sea fishermen off the coast of Alaska, guys up on skyscrapers, builders. I mean, there are really brutal ways to make a living. But I think today, the toughest way to make a living, I'm pretty sure, is being part of the mainstream media and being compelled to defend Joe Biden, to defend the Biden family at this point. It is hysterical watching these people scrambling in the final days of a dying regime, knowing that their guy, Joe Biden, is a complete and utter failure on every level. He was a terrible president. He's a terrible man. He's a terrible father. And what they have to do today, what they're doing their best to do, is prop him up, to carry him over the finish line, tell you about the pain and anguish of a loving father who did right by his troubled, addicted son and pardoned him, not just for the crimes he committed, not just for the crimes he was convicted of, but any crimes he may have convicted years before he was actually facing charges. And today, this week, this month, the last 48 days, they're going to tell you Joe Biden did his best. You know, he was just a guy put in an impossible situation. I'm not sure they can keep it up. I'm not sure they can pull it off. There are leaks in the dam. There are rats scurrying from this sinking ship, and it is just fascinating to watch. There's just no way for these people to defend what Joe Biden did on Sunday night in issuing a pardon for his crackhead son. They can tell you, and any father would do that it's just a guy put in this spot where he just didn't want his son to go to prison. He didn't want his son to pay for the sins, for the crimes he committed. But how does that explain the wide-ranging, the breadth, the length of this pardon? As we talked about yesterday, as the many in the media have discussed, it goes back to 2014. His first conviction, I believe let me get the date. I believe the tax charge was 2016 to 2019, and the gun charge was 2018. So if you wanted to pardon him for those crimes, you know, the ones that were politically motivated, according to Joe Biden, which is a joke. We'll get to that. But you come up with a pardon that extends back 3 years, 4 years from when he actually committed the crimes. And you add, he is pardoned for any crime he may have committed. What is that? That's not a loving father who just doesn't want his son to go to prison. That is a co-conspirator. That is an accomplice who knows that there is a lot more there, and he knows when it all began 11 years ago. The pardon covers 11 years, an odd number, isn't it? 11 years, going back to January 1 of 2014, which happens to be 4 months before Hunter Biden took the position as a board member at Burisma, the corrupt energy company in Ukraine. In fact, it coincides with Hunter Biden making his first trip with his accomplice, Joe Biden, on Air Force Two to China to make a deal with a Chinese energy company. That happened, I believe, in December. In January, Hunter Biden was free to commit any crime he wanted. So how do you explain that? If you're one of Joe Biden's defenders in the media, if you're one of the Democrats forced to defend this man, how do you make the case for a loving father who took his addicted son on trips around the world, who sent him around the globe as the bagman, the front man for the family's influence peddling scheme. That is what he did. That is not what a loving father does. I don't think that's one of the 12 steps. Let's go round the world, make these shady deals with hostile countries, and bring in millions to this corrupt family. That's not what a good man does. That's not what a good president does. And today, what they're facing is how to cover this up, essentially. That's the job right now. If you're at the New York Times or MSNBC, how do we cover for this man who's so brazenly corrupt? How do we continue to lie for this man? This is the headline of a story on the Hill today. Biden's pardon of son Hunter threatens to tarnish legacy. Yes, it might tarnish the legacy. They write, Biden is set to conclude his one term as president with a string of notable legislative achievements, a fundamentally strong economy, and having navigated the end of a once-in-a-generation pandemic. Really? You're going to go with that? You're going to tell the American people who just voted overwhelmingly against this guy and his running mate because of a bad economy, because of prices and inflation, you're going to tell them he has a legacy of a strong economy, and worse, they say he navigated us through a once-in-a-generation pandemic. Well, the House COVID committee came out with their report yesterday, and it's getting hardly any coverage. It is a remarkable report. We got to go over this. We'll get back to some of the attempts to defend Joe Biden because they truly are hysterical. But did you see this anywhere? Did you read this? The House came out with their final report on the response to the once-in-a-generation pandemic, and it is stunning. We lived through this. We were here for this. We talked about it every day. School closings, shutdowns, spacing in the CVS store. We talked about masks, masking children, and of course the vaccine. You want to know what the conclusion was? That they were wrong about everything. Yes, the man that Joe Biden called an American hero over the weekend was wrong about everything. And I'm not just talking about the 6-foot social distancing, literally everything. They lay it out in this report. It's 522 pages long. So no one's going to read it. And here's what the Democrats are going to do. Here's what the media is going to do. Ignore it completely. Cover the story with a pillow until it stops breathing. I don't even know where to begin with this. It's truly amazing. You name it. You name it. They go through it, and it's stunning. Everything they said. Here it is. COVID vaccine. It goes through bullet points. Contrary to what was promised, the COVID vaccine did not stop the spread or the transmission of the virus. That's the House Committee on COVID releasing vaccine mandates. Vaccine mandates were not supported by science and caused more harm than good. The Biden administration coerced healthy Americans into compliance with the COVID vaccine mandates that trampled individual rights, harmed military readiness, and disregarded medical freedom to force a novel vaccine on millions of Americans without sufficient evidence to support their policies. Let's go. Business, here's my favorite. Business impacts. God, we talked about this for months. Federal and state governments imposed mandatory lockdowns that were the primary cause of temporary and permanent business closures. More than 160,000 businesses closed due to the pandemic, with 60% of those permanent. For the businesses that stayed or reopened, the lack of supply chain diversity exacerbated pandemic area challenges and deepened existing disparities. So 160,000 businesses, none of which were called were named, Walmart or Costco, or none of these weren't big box stores. These were small businesses. These were people's livelihoods, their lives. The government shut them down, and 60% never recovered. That number would be what? 60% of 160? Almost 100,000 American small businesses shut down for no good reason. That's what they did. And today, nobody's apologizing. Nobody's saying, we made a mistake. We screwed up. We just crushed the U.S. economy on a whim, from a power-drunk little tyrant like Anthony Fauci and all the people who told you, trust the science. Are we ever going to do that again? Is anyone ever going to trust the science again? School closures. The science never justified prolonged school closures. Children were unlikely to contribute to the spread of COVID or suffer severe illness or mortality. Instead, as a result of closures, children experience historic learning loss, higher rates of psychological distress, and decreased physical well-being. It destroyed a generation of children, and we just move on. No big deal. It happens. We make mistakes. This is not even a big story today or last night. Not that I saw. Mask mandates. There was no conclusive evidence that masks effectively protected Americans from COVID. Public health officials flip-flopped on the efficacy of masks without providing scientific data, causing a massive uptick in public distrust. And The Hill and other media outlets want to give Joe Biden credit for navigating through a historic pandemic. Credit? They got everything wrong. They admit social distancing, 6 foot, was totally made up. Fauci just made it up. There was no science to it. None. That led to closures of small businesses, of restaurants, of gyms. And today we say, well, maybe we'll get it right next time. That's Joe Biden's legacy. That and the fundamentally strong economy. Again, it is a tough job. I have to give them some credit because I couldn't do it. If I were a Democrat, if I were working at MSNBC or CNN, I could not do what they are forced to do. They're going to tell you for the next 7-8 weeks that he got us through the pandemic, that he led a strong economy, that he made historic investments, that he pissed away $7 trillion a year. And that's his legacy. And also that he just was looking out for his poor drug-addicted son. Just, he didn't want to see him go to prison. Well, all he had to do to keep him out of prison was commute the sentences for the two cases, the crimes, the gun charges and the tax charges that he was going to be sentenced for in December, in this month. He could have commuted the sentences, said, there, I don't have to watch my only living son go to prison. But that's not what he did. He made this blanket immunity something we have never seen before, more than twice as long as the immunity deal that the pardon that Gerald Ford gave Richard Nixon. He gave to his scumbag crackhead son, the one who divorced his wife and then started having relations with his sister-in-law and got her hooked on crack, the one who knocked up a stripper and abandoned the child, the one who tried to stop his own daughter, Navy Roberts, from using his name, went to court, didn't pay child support, doesn't pay his rent, doesn't pay his bills. It's one of the worst people in the world. And Joe Biden is showing sympathy for him. Joe Biden, the guy who sent him around the world while he was in the throes of addiction as the point man for their family influence peddling scheme. This is not a good man. This is not a good father. And this is a horrible president. And we're all eventually, history will show what a just a disaster he has been for the country, for his family, for his children. I don't think you can say a guy who showered with his daughter, who denied the existence of his own granddaughter, who did what he did to Hunter, who made Hunter, when Hunter was a little child, lay there in his hospital bed and watch his father get sworn into the Senate, who has used his family, has used tragedy every step of the way. Not a good man, not a good president. And good luck to all those who are out to defend them. You know, it was hard. It was hard for me to come up. We got 1,000 examples of this, of people who were just bending over backwards to defend the man as he slinks out of office in 48 days. They're going to do it. They're going to do their best. Hell, they'll do it over the holidays. You know, just show compassion like Joe did for Hunter Biden. By the way, I got to do this because what he said, every word he said in the statement when he pardoned Hunter, every word was a lie. Every word was a lie. According to NBC News, let me get the story. NBC News reports that Biden was always planning to pardon his son, or at least always considering it. We knew that. We told you that. Everybody was paying attention, knew he was going to pardon his son. According to NBC, which is, don't forget, a wing, an arm of the Biden-Harris administration, buried in their story on the pardon, it's about 20 paragraphs down. Quote, the president has discussed pardoning his son with some of his closest aides, at least since Hunter Biden's conviction in June, said two people with direct knowledge of the discussions of the matter. They said it was decided at the time that they would publicly say he would not pardon his son, even though doing so remained on the table. So what they told you, what Karine Jean-Pierre told you yesterday, that he decided over the weekend, you know, when he was on holiday with Hunter on Nantucket, sponging off some billionaire once again, they want you to believe that's when he decided. According to NBC, he decided 6 months ago that he was going to pardon him. Of course he did, and just lied to you over and over and over again. Just forced Karine Jean-Pierre to lie to you over and over and over again. This is the guy they want you to believe respects the rule of law, respects the jury's decision, respects our norms and our institutions. It is an absolute joke, and these people get what they deserve. I don't even know where to begin. Let's get to my favorite, Andrew Weissman, an absolute scumbag. He was a U.S. attorney. He was appointed by George Bush as deputy director of the FBI, of a task force on the FBI. He was second in command to Robert Mueller, investigating Donald Trump for the made-up Russia hoax. He's an absolute hack and a partisan, and, of course, a regular on MSNBC. What else would he be? Here's Andrew Weissman talking about the stark contrast between Trump and Biden, because Trump doesn't respect the rule of law or the justice system, and Joe Biden, he does. He has great reverence for the justice system. Watch this clown talk about Joe Biden and what a great man he is for telling us all that he wouldn't pardon Hunter Biden.
What is before us is a president who is living the rule of law. He is living it in the most personal way. He is not pardoning his son, which he could do. These are federal charges. Right. He is not doing that. He is not doing it because he is living what it means to have a rule of law in this country. Yeah. And it is, I mean, if you want to know if he believes it, you could actually see what is happening with his own son. I mean, I'm not saying that he should get credit for it because it is the right thing to do.
That's the norm, but Trump is beneath it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that the idea that you can't see it, or is that really what's going on? Right. Or when you can see what he is actually living by is his own son is being prosecuted, and he is allowing the norms that are required to live in a democracy to go forward.
Just an amazing man, just living, breathing the rule of law. was in June after Hunter's conviction and after the first time that Joe Biden said he would not pardon his son. Oh, I couldn't do it. I mean, and you know what? They're not all doing it. I want to do the CNN lady with Scott Jennings before we get to Chuck Todd and some of the people who are jumping ship. But Scott Jennings, you know what? We're going to get to the ratings collapse of MSNBC. It is stunning how people have just bailed on this cable network. But CNN is being saved by one guy, Scott Jennings, who nightly goes like 1-on-5 against a panel of Biden apologists and just destroys them. Here's where they're at. They can't talk about Biden and his corruption and his lies without mentioning, but Trump, that's all they do. Trump did it. As we told you yesterday, S.E. Cupp from CNN said she blamed Trump for lowering the bar, which allowed Biden to just lie to the country for 6 months. It was Trump's fault. Here's another CNN lady telling you Trump was going to use firing squad. I don't even know where this comes from. Firing squads. Watch Scott Jennings' reaction. It is great. Go ahead.
But wasn't, to Scott's point, I mean, wasn't it a lie? I mean, you can defend it, but wasn't it a lie that he was not going to pardon him?
No, I believe the circumstances have changed. I think that we have a president coming into office who's talking about firing squads, who's talking about running people around the country and making sure that everyone who's his enemy is going to be punished. And Hunter Biden lied about his drug use on a government forum when he was buying a gun. And he failed to file and pay taxes when he was a drug addict. He paid back those taxes with interest. Donald Trump himself was indicted for 17 counts of criminal tax fraud, more than Hunter, and he's going to be the president of the United
11
States.
years.
So
you're missing a few things here. 11 years, full and unconditional pardon.
Trump's going to use firing squads. They are just so desperate and pathetic at this point. Trump's going to use firing squad and arrest his enemies. Not like Joe Biden. He would never arrest his enemies. It's impossible. What they have to do right now is impossible. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They have the toughest job in the world right now. Oh, they could do what Chuck Todd has done, is now that the election's over, now that their team lost, they could start to begrudgingly tell you the truth. We'll get to Chuck Todd and we'll get to so much more. I got so much on this. We got Dan Goldman. It's always great to see Dan Goldman humiliated. Another reason to give CNN some credit is their host, this Brianna, what's her name, just humiliates Dan Goldman. It is so great to watch. And we'll get to that little cheap shot. The Houston Texans, Aziz Al-Shir, knocked out Trevor Lawrence. His coach is defending him. And of course, the player, the guy who committed the cheap shot, he knows who to blame. Islamophobia. Racism and Islamophobia. Yes, he went there. We'll get to that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
Do you wake up in the morning with a sore jaw, headaches, or ringing in your ears from grinding and clenching your teeth at night? I've been through this. It's fairly common, and dentists charge $600 for a bruxism night guard. Many people are now discovering the Brux Night Guard. Unlike regular night guards that go all the way to the back of the teeth, Brux Night Guard only covers the front teeth. This unique design is what sets Brux Night Guard apart from all other guards. It only covers the front teeth, so the bite force is directed away from the back, where many people grind and clench to help reduce jaw pain and still protect the teeth. You mold it at home to the top and bottom teeth. And unlike other guards, it is made in America and uses 2 materials for added durability. Order a Brux Night Guard today and use the code MAX22 to get 10% off plus free shipping. Go to bruxnightguard.com and enter the code word MAX22. All right, there weren't too many more staunch defenders of Joe Biden throughout the last 4 years than Chuck Todd. He lost his gig on his Sunday show, but he was still around, and he was always there to attack Trump and tell you that Biden's a good man. Well, those days are over. Chucky went on a podcast with Chris Kaliza, another left-wing hack. And Chuck apparently has changed his tune a little bit on the Bidens and Hunter Biden. We don't hear that much about Hunter's proclivities. Now we know about the tax charges, and we know about the gun charge, but many of the charges, by the way, because the DOJ was in the tank for Hunter and Joe, the statute of limitations ran out. The reason the whole case, the reason Hunter was even charged with anything was two heroic IRS whistleblowers. That's why, like I said, everything Joe Biden said about this case is a lie. It wasn't politically motivated. In fact, one of the two whistleblowers, Joseph Ziegler, calls himself a 38-year-old gay Democrat. The other guy, David Shapley, we've seen the two. They were investigating some other crimes, child porn, and they came across Hunter Biden, stumbled across Hunter Biden, and noticed that he was deducting escorts. He was deducting his membership to a sex club on his taxes. So they led an investigation, and they were told by their bosses to steer clear of the big guy, they weren't allowed to search the Biden residence. They weren't even allowed to ask about Joe Biden's involvement in Hunter's various schemes. That's where the whole deal that Weissman initially made, the plea deal, the sweetheart plea deal, which would include no jail time and blanket immunity, that's why it fell apart. And Weissman was forced to pursue the case. Weiss was forced to pursue the case. It had nothing to do with Republicans in Congress. As the liar Joe Biden said in his statement, it wasn't politically motivated. In fact, Hunter Biden got the sweetheart deal because he's Hunter Biden. Yes, his name made a difference. It made him different, special, entitled. Anybody else, you, me, anybody else, would have already gone to prison, particularly for those tax charges. We'd have been in and out of prison. But because he's Hunter Biden, he has been protected for years, and everybody knows it, including Joe Biden, who just keeps lying. Well, I'm not sure all his friends in the media are going to hold out. Some are going to bail, like Chucky here, Chuck Todd, talking about what kind of guy Hunter Biden really is. Listen to this.
I followed the Hunter Biden trial very closely. Mm-hmm. I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is, you want to get angry, just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions. You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
Ooh, gee, Chucky, did you notice that before the election, before 2020? Did you know that? I did. Did you read the contents of the laptop? Did you read Laptop from Hell by Miranda Devine? We knew that. Now it's safe for someone like Chuck to say that. He knew it certainly before this election, but now that his team lost, he's free to tell the truth. Yes, Hunter Biden, the guy who just was spared serving a day in prison, he left his wife, cheated on his wife, shacked up with his sister-in-law. His sister-in-law, after his brother died of a brain tumor in America, not in Iraq, and then got her hooked on crack. And then you know what else he did? He made the moves on her sister. Yes, that guy. And you know what else he did? He knocked up a stripper. And then he ignored the baby. Then he fought her in court to not pay child support. Here's the latest from Hunter Biden. This breaks the day after he got pardoned by his loving father. It's from the Daily Mail. This is amazing. Can you imagine if this were Trump? If this were Don Jr., Eric Trump? Hunter Biden stiffed 2 Venice landlords for a total of more than $380,000 in rent. Sources close to the property owners claimed. The Daily Mail revealed last year that Hunter owed Sweet Green CEO and co-founder Jonathan Neiman $80,000 in back rent after leaving his Venice rental property trashed. And now Sean McGuire, a partner in San Francisco investment giant Sequoia, has come forward claiming Hunter owes him $300,000 after failing to pay rent for a year. Here's the best part. The livid California venture investor spoke out hours after Joe Biden pardoned Hunter for his gun and tax felony convictions, despite the president's promises not to. Quote, Hunter was our tenant in Venice, California, didn't pay rent for a year. He tried to pay with a book of art made from his own feces. He changed the locks and used Secret Service to enforce. We had no access to our property. McGuire's house is a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot home in Venice Beach. Its estimated worth is $4.25 million. So he rents a mansion in Venice Beach. He has Secret Service protection. By the way, they had to pay like $10,000 a month for their home, their house in Venice Beach on the taxpayers. And he didn't pay rent. And when they demanded he pay rent, he tried to pay them with artwork made from his own duties. That's Hunter Biden. That's the guy who his father calls the most decent man he knows and the smartest man he knows. That's the guy your mainstream media is forced to defend today. A guy who tried to pay his rent with finger paintings made from his own feces. Yeah. Terrific guy. Wonderful guy. All right. What do I got to get to now? We got to get to I got to get to Dan Goldman. I love this. This is my favorite clip of the day. If you don't, Dan Goldman's a congressman. He bought a house seat. He's an heir to the Levi Strauss fame. He's worth billions. And he represents Wall Street, of course. He was a lead prosecutor in one of the phony Trump impeachments. He's just the worst. He's just the slimiest and the biggest liar in Congress right now. He goes on CNN, and I assume he figures, they'll rub his feet the way they normally do and talk about evil Trump and loving Joe Biden. And this is after Biden pardoned Hunter, and everybody who defended Joe Biden looks like a fool, but he doesn't think this is going to happen. They're not going to put him on the spot. They're CNN. Well, I'm starting to think CNN is actually going to change course a little bit, feature Scott Jennings and others like him and embarrass clowns like Dan Goldman. But I've never seen this before. I've never seen a guy humiliated like this on CNN. Watch her put him on the spot about his defense of Joe Biden and watch the look on it. By the way, what did he do? Dye his hair? It looks like he dyed his hair. He's like a blonde now. He looks very strange and he looks very rattled. Watch this.
In July of 2023, just after that plea deal fell through, this is what you said. I want to watch.
Do you think a pardon for his son would be a mistake?
Yes, and I don't think there's any chance that President Biden is going to do that, unlike his predecessor, who pardoned all of his friends and anyone who had any access to him. And I think you see that in this case, where he kept on, and Merrick Garland kept on, a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to investigate the president's son. If there is not an indication of the independence of the Department of Justice beyond that, I don't know what we could look for.
What does that feel like, watching yourself back then, reassuring people that Biden was not going to issue a pardon for his son?
Yeah, and I think that if that plea agreement and that plea deal had gone through, there would be no pardon. That was a satisfactory outcome.
It already fallen
that
through.
Only was. Sorry?
Well, when you reacted, this was when the deal had fallen through. And I hear what you're saying.
She nailed him. The deal had already fallen through. The deal, which was a joke, and everybody knows the deal which showed that David Weissman was compromised, and the deal that the judge looked at, couldn't believe, and tore it up. By the way, you know who really issued the pardon for Hunter? We know Joe Biden is not really cognitively capable at this point of making such a decision. Jill Biden. That's who pardoned Hunter. Dr. Jill. That's who's really the running the country for the next 48 days. Dr. Jill. And she is bitter and she is angry, and it's going to get even uglier. Joe had to pardon Hunter on December 1st because Hunter was about to be sentenced. Well, Joe's brothers, Jim and Frank, they're not about to be sentenced, but they will be pardoned. And in fact, Joe Biden will pardon himself before January 20th. And all these clowns will have to step up and explain why good and decent Joe Biden is going back on his word, why he needs a pardon. We know why. And we know when. 2014. That's when they began the scheme. That's when he was vice president, and Hunter Biden was traveling with him and raking in bags of cash. Hopefully, the Senate, hopefully the House, James Comer, continues to investigate. Hopefully, they impeach him. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't when they get the House and the Senate. Day one, they should begin impeachment trials. Here's Vivek, the Doge, our man in Doge with Elon Musk, who's doing great work so far. He writes, the Hunter Biden trial is a smokescreen. It's designed to make the prosecution of Trump appear nonpartisan. Yet the outcome of the Hunter Biden trial doesn't matter because Joe can and will pardon him. The trial's timing is no coincidence. Right after Trump's conviction, but set to finish before Joe Biden leaves the White House. Yes, they real respect for the judicial system, really respect the jury's decision. Sure they do. It's just impossible. They have an impossible job, but damn it, they're going to continue and they're going to try to do their best to carry this corpse over the finish line. All right, we got to get to much, much more here. Oh man, we got to get to the collapse of CNN, collapse of MSNBC, not CNN. Scott Jennings is saving CNN. MSNBC is collapsing before our eyes. And we have a factoid from the election on November 5th that is mind-blowing. Yes, it is confirmation, once again, that Kamala Harris was the single worst candidate in American history. We'll tell you about that and more, but first.
Excuse me.
A large part of managing a business's finances is tedious, repetitive work to ensure accurate bookkeeping. Well, Ramp helps streamline this work, giving business operators more time to focus on what matters most. Are you looking to cut costs and improve your business's bottom line? The best business operators have turned to Ramp to help them stop wasteful spending and improve their finance operations. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. With Ramp, spend policies are built into the card so you can prevent wasteful spending before it happens. You can customize spending limits and restrictions so employees are empowered to purchase what your business needs, and you can have peace of mind. Ramp plays the bad cop so you don't have to. Detecting policy violations, chasing missing documentation, requesting repayment, and locking cards of non-compliant employees. Ramp's accounting software automatically collects receipts and categorizes your expenses in real time so you don't have to. Say goodbye to manual expense reports. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Gerry. That's RAMP.com/Gerry. Cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC, terms and conditions apply. Get $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Gerry. All right, small business owners, listen up. If you're tired of losing money to credit card processing fees, we've got something you need to hear. With 24/7 payments, you can eliminate up to 99% of those fees thanks to their fee elimination program. Here's how it works. You pass the processing fees on to customers who pay with credit cards, and in return, you can offer them a discount for paying with cash or debit. It's a simple, effective, and fully compliant way to save thousands every month. Right now, 24/7 Payments is switching over 250 businesses every month to this program, and they can have you set up in less than 24 hours. Call 855-504-0799 today or visit them on the web at 247payments.com. That's the numbers 247payments.com. All right, the next time you hear someone say, oh, the election was close, she got 74 million votes, that includes California, which we really shouldn't include California or Massachusetts or New York, but throw that map up there, Ironhead. Here it is. This is the map. You know what? We need this everywhere. Mugs and T-shirts and wallpaper. This is the map of the election. And here is a stunning factoid. Kamala Harris is the first candidate since Herbert Hoover in 1932 who did not flip a single county. Not one county in the United States was flipped from red to blue. To put that in context, Trump flipped 54 counties from blue to red. Kamala flipped not a single county. And as we've told you before, 49 states moved to the right. 49 states moved the number from 2020 to 2024, moved from Democrat to Republican. Only Washington State did not move to the right. That's a bad sign for Democrats. But as I've said many times, the good news, if you're Democrat, is you just selected the worst candidate in American history. You can't do worse next time. You just can't. It's just not possible. Maybe next time, I don't know, have a primary. Again, with Biden's legacy, which has just been tainted, according to The Hill, Biden's legacy is he was a stubborn old crank who refused to step aside, who once again lied to the country, said he was going to be a transitional figure, and let someone else take the reins in 2024. He did not, because he's a powered, drunk narcissist, and he stayed in the race even though he was in the throes of dementia, and he forced them to nominate him. Then came the debate, and then they forced him out, and they had no choice. She wasn't going anywhere. She insisted she be the nominee, and the media did their best for 107 days. She spent $1.5 billion to not flip a single county in the country. The legacy of Biden and Harris is just going to be abject failure, just an absolute disaster what they did to the Democrat Party. And now what? Spend $2 billion, $3 billion next time? See if they can change things. Maybe hire more celebrities to endorse her. Give Beyonce $20 million next time. I don't know where they go from here, but it's a wonderful mess for the Democrat Party. All right, let me get to the MSNBC collapse. This is remarkable. MSNBC, I got to get the number here. Here it is. The ratings collapsed. They had last week their lowest rating since July 19th, 2004. More than 20 years. This is a very hot political time. Lots of people are following politics, and there are lots of people, 4 million people voted for Kamala Harris. None of them is watching MSNBC right now. None of them is tuning into Joy Reid and Chris Hayes and Lawrence O'Donnell every night. They got total viewers, 25 to 54, the Money Group, 38,000. 38,000 people in a country of 330 million. All right, Ironhead, I'm just checking. Yesterday on Free Speech Rumble, we had 28,000. What do we have on Twitter? Can you find that for me? I want to see if we beat MSNBC. It's got to be close. No, actually, we must have trounced them. If we have 28,000, which is average for us on Rumble each day, and then Twitter.
If I look up Facebook, we definitely kill them.
Forget Facebook. Just Twitter yesterday. Find out what we had. It had to be in the 20, 30,000. Right now, 10,000 on Twitter. So just Twitter and Rumble. We beat MSNBC in their target demo. That is disastrous. They're going to just start blowing these people out. They have no choice. They must be losing millions. They paid Rachel Maddow $30 million. They cut her pay to $25 million for 1 day a week. I'm telling you, more people see MSNBC when people like me play their clips than when they actually do their shows. It's just disastrous for these nuts. And just keep putting Andrew Weissman on there. That'll help. And Claire McCaskill to tell you how wonderful, what a wonderful man Joe Biden is. That ought to work. That ought to help.
21,000 on Twitter yesterday.
So we had 49,000. Yeah, we trounced them. Ours doesn't get broken down into demos, but that's amazing. And you know what? I think Rachel makes a little bit more than I do. A little bit more. Edges me out. All right, we got to get to Trump too. Shoot. Trump had a great day yesterday. Let me just say, he after we found out that American Omar Nutra, I think his name was, 21-year-old American hostage. We thought he was a hostage, but they killed him. Hamas killed him a long time ago, and they have not turned over his remains, which is amazing. Why do you want to keep a corpse of a dead American? And I heard the story, and I just started thinking, since when is there no consequences for murdering Americans, for terrorists murdering Americans? I believe they have about 6 Americans still in Gaza being held hostage. And you almost never hear Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. They don't even mention them, let alone rescue them. It's just an amazing lack of leadership. Americans being held hostage, Americans being tortured by terrorists. And it's like not even an issue. Wasn't an issue on the campaign trails. Not a big deal with Joe Biden, who's more. You can look this up. I guarantee you, Joe Biden has tweeted more about junk fees and airline junk fee than he has about Americans being held hostage in Gaza. Well, one guy, Nutra, he was in the IDF, but he was an American. He was murdered. And you hear nothing except Trump. Trump released a statement yesterday, and it was pure Trump, and it was perfect. This has to be the stance of an American president. This is how an American president could react. He writes yesterday, he posts on True Social, and then it appears on Twitter. He says, everybody is talking about the hostages who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East. Everybody is not talking about them. He's wrong about that, but I get the point. But it's all talk, no action. Please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, the date I proudly assume office, there will be hell to pay in the Middle East. And for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity, those responsible will be hit harder than anyone has ever been hit in the long and storied history of the U.S. Release the hostages now. All right, where has that been? Why has that not been a priority? Why has that not been top of the agenda every day? You're holding Americans, you're torturing them, starving them, raping them, whatever. Why do we not make this a huge deal? Well, I think they're going to be released, or we're going to rescue them soon. But we need new leadership, obviously. That it's just embarrassing to the country, humiliating that that these ragtag terrorist rabble are holding Americans, and we're doing nothing about it. That was good Trump, and so was this. Trump had a meeting with Justin Trudeau, the pathetic Prime Minister of Canada, who went to Mar-a-Lago to bend the knee. Trump hasn't taken office yet, and both Mexico and Canada are doing as they are told by Trump. The Mexican president, crazy left-winger, she broke up caravans headed to the border. Remember how Harris and Biden told us it required Congress, an act of Congress, to do anything about the invasion of the southern border? Well, Trump made a phone call and stopped the caravan from coming. Hasn't taken office yet. Tom Homan hasn't gone into action yet. And then he met with Trudeau, who promised to do more at the border. Trump threatened tariffs. And according to people who were at the table, Trudeau said tariffs would destroy Canada. Here's Trump's reaction. This is great.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor.
Trudeau will do as he's told. This is leadership. I'm sorry, I know he's joking, but it's leadership. Yes, tariffs will destroy your economy. Well, you don't have to have tariffs. You don't. Just do what you're told. Secure the border, period. I love all this talk, and it's just so phony. Oh, tariffs are going to raise prices. They're doing pieces on MSNBC and CNN about should people buy things now before Trump's tariffs. Well, Trump's tariffs will not be enacted. They will not be implemented if Mexico and Canada do as ordered, and it appears they will. So you'll have to worry about the tariffs. Wow. Yesterday on Facebook, we had 415,000 views. We are crushing MSNBC. Corey's got the numbers. 400,000 on Facebook. Jeez. I definitely should be making as much as Rachel. All right, before we go, we got to do this Texan story because it was amazing. If you saw the weekend of football was marred, I don't think it was marred, by brawls. There was a big brawl in the Michigan-Ohio State game, which was all the fault of Michigan for planting their flag. And both schools are being fined, but the players, I mean, that's what you do when someone plants the flag on your field. You go rip it down. That was Michigan's fault. And this is I got to get his name, Aziz Al-Ashir's fault. He's a linebacker for the Texans, and he essentially knocks out Trevor Lawrence. Here you go. Lawrence slides. He's down. And Ashir was suspended for 3 games. He apologized. He apologized to Lawrence. There was a brawl after that, of course. If you're a Jacksonville player, of course you defend your quarterback. But I thought it was ridiculous when Ashir blamed racism and Islamophobia for the reaction. You know what my reaction to that is? Why did you have to do it? I mean, he was going down. You could jump on him if you want, but you don't have to drill him in the head. They blame, this is the Texans coach, D'Amico Ryans, blaming Trevor Lawrence for not sliding properly. I mean, maybe quarterbacks shouldn't slide. I know some people, that's Rex Ryan's big thing. They shouldn't slide. It's more dangerous. But if hitting him in the head gets you a 3-game suspension and a penalty and an ejection, I got a thought. How about you don't hit him in the head? Wouldn't that solve the problem? Isn't that simple? If the QB is sliding, you don't try to take his head off. You don't concuss him. Simple solution there, Aziz. But here's his coach, after that hit, defending his player and blaming Trevor Lawrence. It's remarkable. Go ahead.
We stand behind Aziz and everything, that came from that. Of course, he unfortunately hit on the quarterback. But it's twofold, right? I mean, a lot of the quarterbacks in this day and age, they try to take advantage of the rule where they slide late and they try to get an extra yard. And Now, you're a defender. A lot of onus is on the defender, right? Whether it's on the sideline or where it's on the quarterback, you don't know what a guy's thinking. You don't know if a guy's standing up and he's continuing to run. You don't know. And then you get a late slide and you hit the guy. Unfortunate that Trevor got hurt. Hope Trevor is okay, but it's also, if we're sliding, we have to get down. If we're getting out of bounds, we get out of bounds. And that rule is there to protect the quarterbacks. And we want our quarterbacks to be safe in the league. So we just have to be safe. If we're sliding, make sure we're keeping our heads down. So, and the entire thing is, Aziz hits the guy, but their sideline overreacts, and it turns into a melee. It wasn't our guys. It's their team overreacted, pushed our guy, dragging our guy to the sideline. So that's uncalled for on that side. We have to be better on the sidelines as well with both teams.
What? Just say your guy screwed up. Your guy got suspended. Your guy didn't have to hit him in the head, but it's the fault of the quarterback for sliding. You want to change the rule, but quarterbacks slide. It's what they do. And when they slide, you're not supposed to hit them in the head. We just played the video. I've seen it 100 times. You don't have to hit him in the head. You did it. It's your fault. He blames the quarterback. That's a head coach defending his player for just an incredible cheap shot that cost his team. They won the game. And, Jacksonville sucks. But I'm all for rules to protect quarterbacks, and I'll tell you why. Last night's game, Monday night game, Jameis Winston against Bo Nix was a blast. Great quarterback play, good quarterback play is the reason people watch, particularly if your team's not involved. You tune in, if there's a good QB and he's lighting it up, you watch. That's the number one attraction in the NFL is good quarterback play. And when a good quarterback gets taken out by a punk who just wants to hurt him, I suspend him, fine him, whatever it takes. Don't defend him. Jesus, that's nuts. Anyway, that's and of course the reaction, according to Aziz, was just fueled by racism and Islamophobia. Who the hell? So if you're booing him, if you're criticizing him, it's because he's a Muslim. He put out a statement and the headline was "All praise to Allah." Fine, you can praise Allah, but that's not why people are criticizing you, you clown. All right, that will do it. How many we got now? Oh, yeah, that's true. Rob Schmidt beat CNN. Rob Schmidt from Newsmax beat CNN. Our guy, Rob Finnerty, had a big week, too. Newsmax is kicking ass. CNN and MSNBC are drowning, and it's wonderful to watch. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse as Trump takes office. People are sick of just this reflexive Trump hate. That's why they tuned in to MSNBC and CNN. They're done with it. They're moving on. They're not watching anymore. At least they're not watching them. And that's a good thing. But that will do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and Free Speech Rumble and Twitter. We appreciate it. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my God. Is she crazy?
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, too many. Thank you.